it seems like forever.
Wasn't that long?
Rothenberger's still staying with Pittsburgh?
No, he's retired. All right, let's call to order the meeting of the Budget Advisory Committee at 2:00, February 17th, 2022. Do we have a quorum present?
We do, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Shall we take the roll call?
Okay, and Chairman Cloy,
Here.
Vice Chair Hales. Here. Mr. Curris.
Here.
Ms. Hall.
Here.
Mr. Bergman.
Here.
Okay, we can dive right into the agenda, and we get to meet Mr. Polis. Welcome. Tell us, enlighten us.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. Should I talk into this or do I?
Yeah,
need to
yeah,
do that?
yeah, however.
Okay. Thank you so much for having me. And I apologize, I didn't make your last meeting. I was sick, not COVID or anything. I had a sinus infection. It was pretty bad. If you never had one, you don't want one. But I'm here today, and thank you for accommodating me. I also want to say thank you for selecting me during the interview process to move forward in the selection process, I guess. So I do appreciate that. I guess I'll kind of just tell you what I've been up to. I've been here for, I want to say, 8-9 months or so, since May. So I've tried to, obviously, there was no internal audit office before I got here. So I've had to kind of build it from scratch, literally from scratch. So I started off with an audit charter. I put an audit manual together, which is, audit manual is kind of, if you don't know, I'm not sure what each of y'all's background is, but it's kind of like the, an audit manual is kind of like the policies and procedures manual for the internal audit office. So I've been building that, and that's kind of like a living document. It's always changing, and I'm always adding templates in it and stuff like that. So down the road, as I'm doing audits, I'll be able to just pull a template out and fill it in and make my job easier down the road. So I did that first, and the audit charter was approved by the BOC. Then I did a risk assessment, which I was required to do. And I took the top 4. What I did is kind of risk assessment. If you don't know, it's basically it's a way to take all the, you can do it process-based or department-based. I chose to do department-based, and you identify the risks and throughout the organization for each department. And you kind of develop a way to kind of put a numerical score on them. I brought a copy if anyone's interested in seeing it. And I chose the top 4, the ones who got the highest scores. I sent out a survey as well to each director, and I met with the directors of each department. So it took a little while to do, but did that, and the top 4 were human resources, public works, stormwater. They were number 4, I believe. The fire department, which I'm working on now, and the clerk's office, which I finished a couple months ago. So did the risk assessment, charter, manual. I finished the clerk's audit, the fire department audit. I've got a draft done. I presented it to the fire chief a couple weeks ago, but him and I have a difference of opinion, to say the least, on some of the audit findings. So that report's delayed, which I'll be sending a memo to the BOC to notify them that it's going to take a little longer. Some new information is coming to light, and I really can't talk about the findings. It wouldn't be fair to the chief until the report's issued. But that'll be coming out hopefully sooner than later. What else? I've been working on CPEs to keep my certifications active. And I guess that's about it. And kind of learning my way around and learning the different systems that City of Tarpon uses. Some of them I'm kind of familiar with, some I'm not. It seems like every. Oh, and I've also done some non-audit services, basically helping the city manager and his staff if they need something. I've helped them investigate a few things. I've helped some of the board members with a few kind of ad hoc little projects. So that's pretty much it. If you have any questions, I'd be more than happy to answer any of them, or if you have any ideas on where you see the office going, or anything at all, I'd be more than happy to talk
So
about
do
it.
you get, in terms of what you audit, I know you talked about the risk assessment, which you did.
Yes, sir.
Do you get anything coming down from the BOC that says, we want you to dive into this area, We have a concern. Maybe it's true, maybe it's not.
Yeah, it's a couple small things Commissioner Carr asked me to look into, and I did, but nothing, as far as from an audit perspective, they've pretty much let me, I put out the risk assessment, and I put the top 4 departments on my audit plan for the year, and they've just they'd let me go. So, but if in the future they want to, yeah, that'd be no problem. I'd actually look forward to that. It makes my job easier. I think the hardest part of an audit is, 'cause these are all one-off audits. It's not like the annual audit that's done, the financial audit, where
Right.
there's an audit program and they pretty much do the same thing every year unless there's an accounting change or something. Every audit I do is unique. It's one-off. So I got to come up with the objectives of the audit. So if the board wanted me to look at something in particular, that makes my job easier. I don't have to determine, okay, what am I going to audit? You know, so I actually welcome that, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay. And if Scott Young gives you a hard time, he's my neighbor.
Oh, is it?
So, yeah.
I will do. I will do.
I do have a question. Did anybody else? Okay. The risk assessment, that would be interesting to see if that's something you can
Sure,
share.
absolutely.
And could you just talk about how you approach the risk assessment?
Yeah, from basically, okay, well, I haven't looked at it in probably 6
Yeah,
months
thank you
or
for
so.
the update. That was great.
No problem, no problem. I came up with, kind of thumbing through it. It's been, God, I put this out in July, and I don't think I've looked at it since. But basically, first thing I did is I broke down the organization. There's departments, divisions, blah, 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 and there's like, I don't know, probably 50 of them or so. So I broke it down to, what was it, I think 28 departments. Like Public Works has like 7 or 8, and same thing with Public Services. So I kind of grouped ones that were big enough to group, and so I had to get it to a manageable, like took the universe and kind of,
Put it down, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And then came up with some risk categories, and I chose, I mean, there's obviously lots of different risks you can choose. I chose financial, operational, compliance, assurance, and reputational. And reputational because I realized kind of quick that while I grew up in the area, I didn't realize how devout people who live in Tarpon Springs are. So I realized how important the city's reputation is. So I thought that was a very big risk to the
I
to
think
people
that's
that.
definitely
Sure.
value add, yeah.
Yeah,
Glad you
absolutely.
did that.
And so anyway, so then I came up with the rating criteria. I used frequency and probability. So frequency, how often department does something, and the probability, the chance of something bad happening. Kind of like magnitude and frequency, if you will. And then I sent out a risk assessment. I don't know how many questions was. There's probably 25 questions to each director. And I also met with each director as well, and they filled out. It's a questionnaire, basically a survey, and each response was coded. And some department, because I didn't want to just look. I didn't want it to just be, the bigger departments get audited because they're the biggest and we spend the most money there. They got the most FTEs. To me, that just defeats the whole purpose of risk assessment. There's risk in small departments as well, and sometimes bigger risk in small departments. So I wanted to kind of level the playing field a little bit. So that's how we got, the fire department, which is the second largest, but also Public Works Stormwater, which isn't that big from a FTE perspective or a budget perspective. So each response had a score, a numerical score, and then I basically added up all the scores, and then at the end, what I would do is I would adjust some up or down depending on what I learned in the interviews when I would interview the directors. So some departments, I can't remember now, it's been so long since I've done it, but some I would, if they mentioned something that was a risk that wasn't captured in the survey, I would either rate them up or rate them down, a few points here or there. Like planning, actually, I do remember that one now. Planning, they're getting a new electronic, I don't know what you would call it, like a planning system to where when they're doing the reviews of the plans, it'll be all electronic, and it's a newer, I don't think it's even gone live yet. So I thought, well, it would make sense to audit them because they were pretty high up there. And I thought, well, wouldn't it make sense to audit them this year because, if you're going to do an audit, you don't want to audit and then they change their whole system the following year. So it's like, okay, what would you waste your time for? So I actually brought their score down.
Okay.
So that's kind of how it came about. And then I just took the top 4 departments because, I'm by myself, so I don't want to, bite off more than I can chew. I figured I could probably get 4 audits done. And it's probably taken me longer than it will today than it will, say, if I'm still here 5 years from now. I'll be a lot faster with them. So I just took the top 4 and put them on my audit plan and, went to the board with it. So that's kind of in a nutshell how the risk assessment came from start to finish.
Nice. And the top 4 was HR, Public Works, Stormwater, Fire, and the 4th one was?
Public Works, Stormwater, HR, I'm going in reverse order, Fire and clerk, the clerk's office, yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, so I try to approach everything I do, like whether it's a risk assessment or an audit from a risk perspective. Like I said earlier, it's the hardest part is identifying the objectives of an audit. So I request a bunch of information and then I just sift through it and until I figure out, okay, and then I meet with the auditee as well and try to figure out, okay, where's the biggest risk? There's financial risk here, there might be an operational risk here, there might be, like we talked about, reputational risk here, and then I try to do 2 to 3 objectives per audit. That's manageable, and then I go from there.
How did you assess the IT area?
IT, from during the risk assessment, everyone would use the same survey for everyone. IT, I think if I remember right, I graded them down as well. They just got done, and I knew they were doing this from talking to the director. They were getting a penetration test done and some other audits done. So if they're, I don't want to duplicate effort, and I'm not an IT auditor either. So I figured I'd grade them down, and I don't know when I'll ever really get around to IT. If the city's going to pay for IT experts to come in and audit them, they're going to do more than I'll be able to do. So you kind of, that's another, it's a good point, but it's another thing I have to kind of keep in mind. Like I said, I'm one person and I can only do so much, so I got to really be choosy on what I do. You know.
Could I just segue to, Mark, did we ever hire the IT person? The
Cybersecurity.
cybersecurity, that's one.
Probably, I think it was official this week.
Okay.
Or the end of next week. Or the week before. It's been within the last 10 days.
Recent, okay.
It sounds very comprehensive. Thank you for all your efforts. Anything that you've learned since doing your risk assessment that you want to focus on, or anything that would be worth mentioning?
No, not really. I mean, it's kind of, the position is pretty much how I thought it would be, except it's a lonely job, literally and figuratively. Not many people do audits by themselves, so it's, everyone's got gaps in their skill set, so you kind of have to work around that. And like I said, like determining what you're going to audit, usually it's, especially with these types of audits, they're one-off. Usually you're working with other people and you can bounce ideas off each other, but I don't have that luxury, so I have to really think about things and before I jump into them. So probably, I guess, just to be very cautious when I'm doing the audits. Yeah, I'd say that's probably the biggest thing. So I don't want to, like I said, bite off more than I can chew or get into something where I won't be able to get it done in a reasonable amount of time.
Yeah. That's good.
I always thought it was a difficult position to fill because this position is out here and reports up to the BOC.
Yeah.
It's not part of like the finance team or
Right.
any other team. It's a little island, so you've got to work with them at
Correct.
the same time.
You're absolutely right. And-
You're the auditor.
Yep, exactly, and that has its own challenges as well. I mean, right now everyone's nice to me, but eventually, I don't think everyone will be. But I do have a job to do though, and what's, I guess what one thing I haven't come across it yet, but I see it coming real soon, is, I mean, look, you all live here. It's a small town, and this is a small city, and there's going to be audit reports. It's not like working at, say, City of Tampa or Miami-Dade, where you put out a report and you have these findings, and there might be 100 people working in the department. I'm going to put out an audit, and there's 5 people working there, 2 people there, 10 people working there. So people are going to figure out real quick whose fault that was, you know. So it's like it's really close for comfort. They're too close for comfort, rather. So that's something that I just I'll have to negotiate at the time, you know. So, but everyone's been real friendly and accommodating, and I enjoyed it. The challenges with this position, like I said, being by yourself, are some of the things I like. I went from, I was a deputy tax collector and I had over 200 employees, so I like to joke that I went from, when you have that many employees, you're talking all day long, you know, and now I joke that I just talk to myself all day long, you know. So it's been quite a change, but I've enjoyed it. If I didn't, then I wouldn't be here if I didn't. So
Well, Billy, thank you.
thank you for having me.
Thank you. Okay, we're moving along in the agenda. We're gonna turn it over to Ron Herring. Give us an update, financial update. Numbers look pretty good for 2021.
How many slides?
102.
500.
Hey, you gotta stay awake.
No, I wouldn't do that to you. And I just want to say, after Billy, this is the next loneliest job. No, it's not that bad. I got a great staff over here. Just, I don't know if you remember, but back in November, we went over the 2021 financials. I wasn't going to go over those same slides again, but I tried to give you some different ones. I was going to go over briefly 2021. We're still in the middle of the audit right now. If you see 5 people, there's 5 auditors that have been here the last 2 weeks, going through our financials. It's a financial audit by the external auditors going on right now. So the numbers aren't final yet, but we're getting close. Then I was going to go over fiscal year 2022. Just as you remember, at this time last year, we're in the middle of the pandemic. We didn't know how things were going to turn out, but it turned out a lot of numbers turned out pretty positive. Most all revenues met the budget. The only tax revenue that didn't was gas taxes, and some other fees like recreation fees, performing art ticket sales, and interest earnings, came in below budget. I got to mention the golf course. It was a big, so 1.6 million. That's the highest amount we've had from the golf course last year, which is helping out that negative fund balance extremely. So that was awfully good news there on that. And this year, through January 31st, they are 96,000 above last year at this time. So I'm hoping, knock on wood, that, the weather keeps up, nothing comes up, that we can have another positive year
Why?
on the golf course.
What's the reason? There's gotta be a reason. I mean,
Well,
they're not just beating it, they're winning by 4 touchdowns.
Well, parts of weather, if they have the good weather, but during 2020, they had to close down for 44 days. And I asked Howard just today, because the auditors are asking for some reports, and he said, part of it's COVID. People are wanting to just get out. Like when they were able to open up last, I think May somewhere, people wanted something to do. So they had their best summer months, not the last summer, but the summer before then, of people coming out and playing golf. So, as long as it keeps up, that's great. I'm hoping that if we have a couple more years like this, that negative fund balance will be gone, be eliminated. So that's great news for the golf course.
Might even be back to wanting to assess the 8%.
The interfund
I just
transfer?
said that.
No, we'll keep it. No, we stopped, well, that helps too. We stopped that
Yeah.
2 years ago, and
Makes
we
sense.
also no capital, unless it's small capital, charge into the golf course. So we eliminated any bigger capital is probably gonna have to come out of the, I hate to say the penny fund if there's something very large or capital-wise, but, so hopefully this year keeps up the way it is, and we'll have some more solid numbers.
So, just to add to what you were saying, so there was no major change to like marketing plan, maybe golf courses are just up across, like many golf courses might be doing well.
Yeah,
Okay.
I don't necessarily agree with that, because I recently played a golf course with a friend of mine. We didn't have to wait in any hole. There was only a handful of people out there. So I don't know what the difference between that course and this course in terms of play is.
I know that,
Player-friendly course.
Right.
In my opinion, to give you a little
That's what I
rope,
hear. And I think Howard said the other
So
day.
it attracts a pretty big population right now.
Right, yeah, I think Howard the other day said, I have no openings, my tea times are all filled up, so. I'm not gonna complain, it's doing good, so hopefully, like I
Come on,
say, it
keep on.
keeps up and. These are some major grants, I just wanted, we mentioned them before, but just, that we got last year, the Sponge Docks Flood Abatement, 1.7 million, the Anclo Turn Basin Grant, 724,000, Elfers Spur Trails, 327,000, and of course,
Elfers Spur Trail. I pretend I don't know anything.
I know enough maybe to be dangerous, but I guess, there's a trail that goes across the Anclote River up to North Anclote Park there. So there's a trail there, so they're going to be working
Gap
on that.
between here and Pasco County.
Right.
There's a gap. And this will complete the gap and connect with the Pasco County Trail.
Got it.
And then, of course, there was the American Rescue Plan money, 12.8 million. And then the COVID CARES money we got when COVID started, the 524,000.
Could I just go back to the last meeting? You wanted to get started on, I want to say 2.4 million, just to get it moving. Did the board give you the?
Partially, but that's coming
I
up.
didn't think you were
That's
asking
coming
for
up.
that much.
Well, that's coming up in item 3. Tuesday night I'm asking for I took one out. We absorbed the paving into the regular budget. We were able to absorb that in the regular budget. So there's only 2 left, and that's going on Tuesday night because they asked I get public engagement first. I'm going to tell you where we are with engagement in item 3, I think, on your list.
Okay.
And since I did what the board said, I'm bringing back those 2 items. Also, in the meantime, the Sustainability Committee has also endorsed that septic to sewer project as a top one. So I've not only, got your endorsement from the last time for the projects, but I've got sustainability addition to it. So there should be no reason why it's not passed Tuesday night, but
Yeah, I think
anything can happen.
you all endorsed the public safety building roof that's going to be repaired, one of the expenditures.
Did we?
Pardon me?
I just remember
the
now.
amount, yeah.
It was about a
That's
third
5
of
or
the
6
16
things, yeah.
or 6.4.
About 1.1
And I
million.
thought, that's not a wild amount that you're asking for. It's just to get it rolling. And something tells me that you have there's a time frame to spend the money within.
Correct. It's got to be obligated by December 31st, 2024, and totally spent by, I said August, December 31st, 2024, and totally spent by December 31st, 2026.
Okay, thank you.
Going on? I just thought, instead of all those other slides I gave you, these are just a snapshot of where the audit is right now that we're working on with the auditors, the preliminary numbers that's unaudited. This is a general fund. Revenues total 27.9 million, expenditures 27.5. So we have revenues over expenditures of 389,426 in the general fund. Taking that into the fund balance for the general fund, above the solid line is the beginning balance, which is a 14.7 million. And I highlighted 8,577,000 as last year's unassigned fund balance. If you go down below, we were going up to 389,000, and highlighted again, I've got the unassigned 8,776,000. So unassigned fund balance going up currently, the way the audit is, 198,000, which is good news.
Remind me, before COVID, what was the unassigned fund balance? Before?
It's been hovering right at 8.5 million.
Yeah, there's a slide coming up.
I got one for you here.
He's got a
I knew you were going to ask that. No.
Test.
Sometimes I put graphs with too many numbers, and so I limited this one just to revenues over the last 5 years, just to show how the revenues and expenditures basically pretty much equaling the last 5 years. Each year, each one, revenues and expenditures, each one is going up about $1 million a year. Revenues, the bulk of it is property taxes, in between $600,000-700,000 a year, and for expenditures, it's mostly salary and benefits is a cause of the increases for the expenditures. So just wanted to throw that graph in there. The next one is what it's trying to show. In the gray bars is the unassigned fund balance for the last 5 years. And then in the gold color bars is the minimum. We have to have a minimum of 20%. So we've got the unassigned fund balance has averaged 8.7 million over that period of time. The fund, what I try to look at, and there's nothing to worry about yet, but as you can see, the minimum is gradually getting close. If we keep unassigned at 8.7 million, the minimum's gradually getting up closer to the, but it might be 10 years. I'm retired before, if it keeps on that trend, you probably have to worry about that or something. But like I said,
Minimum's based on the policy requirement, right?
Yeah.
we've got a fund balance policy. It's 20% of the expenditures of the general fund. So obviously the expenditures are going up and the 20% based on that. So we've still been hovering at 8.7, unassigned fund balance. So gradually that minimum is just creeping up there, but it's not a concern now. We had a gap back in 2017 of excess of 3.8 million. It's in 2021, it's 3.2 million. But like I say, they're good, solid numbers still. I just out of curiosity, I called some other cities and said, what is your minimum? And a lot of them, some is 10%, some is 17%, and a couple are 20% for the fund balance minimum. And our standard setter with the Government Finance Officers Association recommends 17%. So I'm comfortable with the 20%. It's good to have those healthy reserves out there. But this is more for information on what I'm seeing out there on as far as our, unassigned fund balance compared to the minimum.
And Ron, just to your knowledge and history, have we ever had an event that required a usage of something like 10% or more?
No, and that's why I think we like having it there. We're a city on the water in case hurricanes come.
Yep.
We do have the risk management fund where we keep $1 million there, in case of some disasters, and we keep a healthy balance in a solid balance in the sanitation fund because debris is charged out of there. So that's why we've always kept a good, 2-3 million in the sanitation fund to cover the cost of debris removal. Usually a hurricane, it's about $1 million from what I've seen, or a little bit over to remove debris from a hurricane. The couple that we've had, I don't think we've had a really major hurricane yet, but hopefully we don't. Just thought I'd throw in the CRA financials, same sort of thing. The revenue's 557,000, expenditures 957,000. Most of that was the land down there by the bayou of 659,000. So the net change was a negative 400,000. And then down on the bottom, it's bringing down the fund balance to 315,000. Still a positive number. Water sewer fund, we had operating revenues of 18 million, operating expenses 14.6, leaving operating income of 3.5 million. And then below that line is some non-operating revenue expenses of interest earnings, operating grants, capital grants, and impact fees. Interest earnings of 1,085,000 on the bond debt. And then transfers out, and mostly that's to the general fund, some miscellaneous, which is leaving a change in that position of highlighted there in yellow of 1.6 million. A solid number in the water and sewer fund to keep us with our bond covenants and above the ratio we need to have. And the 1.6 is like about 100,000. Last year we had about 1.5 million of change in that position in the water and sewer fund. Sanitation fund, 5.7 million of revenues, expenses 5.4. We have operating income 234,000, and then the items after the operating income of interest, insurance reimbursement, we got money back with part of the MERS settlement on the insurance of 300,000. And then 474,000 for transfers out, and some other couple miscellaneous items. But we still had a positive number, a change in that position of 58,000 in the sanitation fund. Stormwater fund, 1.7 million of revenues, expenses 1.5, operating income 197,000. And then going down below, the interest earnings again and the operating grants, but the big one's capital grants, and highlighted in green, 741,000. That's mostly the Pent Gross project over here, and we've got a Swift Mud grant to help us reimburse us for the Pent Gross project, leaving a positive number and a change in that position of 800,000 in the stormwater fund. I thought I'd throw up the golf course here. I had to, so 1.6 million of revenues, 1.3 million expenses, and there's a 302,000 of operating income. Like I say, highest revenue total since we took over operations back in, I'm drawing a blanket. 95, I think we took over the operations, and like I say, this year we're 97,000 above at this time last year. So we're looking good so far, like I say, knock on wood. I don't know if you have any questions on 2021, but you can see it was mostly some good positive numbers, you know, for the funds there.
And this year we have the water reduction, 2.2, then flat the next 2 years.
Correct. You know, we're early in the year, you know, we're just 3 months into the fiscal year, so sometimes, you know, looking at the numbers, I gotta wait. Sometimes I feel more comfortable once I get into about the 6-month range to see how we're doing. You know, as I usually, we get 83% of the property tax receipts by the end of December, about $9 million. We've gotten $12 million in the general fund, but $9 million is the property tax receipts. The budget's like $11 million, so we've already got $9 million of the $11 million budget on property tax revenues by the end of December. Sales tax receipts look like they're on budget. Something I know, you know, look at building permits and impact fees are slightly below budget so far, a little down. That can be, sometimes you can get just one big project that brings them back up on budget or above, but they're a little bit below budget. Interest rates are returning. I don't know if you remember this time last year, I was only getting like 20 basis points on investments. CDs were doing better than federal agencies, only 20, 30 basis points, but things are improving. I bought a 1-year federal agency this week for 1.2%. Just a 1 year, it's non-callable, so things are improving. I'm trying not to buy too much right now. I'm trying to ladder them because I know rates are going to increase. I don't want to take everything out of the money market and the CDs now, so, but, you know, the interest rates are improving.
How did we budget interest for this year?
I budgeted basically right about at 50 basis points.
Okay.
You know, hoping, you know,
Hoping.
because when I was working on the budget, we were like 20 and 30 basis points. But hearing that the rates were going to increase, I budgeted 50 basis points. So I'm hoping to improve on that. And just to mention, the 1.1 million of ARPA funds that were approved by the board, you know, the big part of that was the public safety building roof. And again, the second year in a row, the police and fire pension, we used to pay it weekly through the payroll process. This is the second year we paid it all at a lump sum at the beginning of the year, and it saves us on average about $80,000 a year by paying it up front at the beginning of the year. So we did that again this year. Between the fire and police, it totals like 1.4 million that we cut a check for and sent to the pensions the first week of October. So we did that again this year. Just some other things of interest. The impact fees were not increased due to state statutes on October 1st. And as you mentioned, there's the water and sewer reclaim rates were reduced 2.2% with no increases for 2023 and 24. As you know, the sanitation contract, you know, it was extended for 6 months through March 30th, 2022. We're still on those rates, but the board approved the 5-year contract with Waste Management, I think, just a week or two ago, and it's for 5 years from, like, say, March 31st, 22 to March 30th, 27, approximate 20% increase over the current rates. And roll-offs are included in the contract. There was 2 alternatives. There was an alternative to take roll-offs out of the contract and let anybody just come in with roll-offs.
Define roll-offs.
A lot of times it's people, maybe a construction area, they're building homes. They bring these big 20, 30-yard
Okay.
roll-offs and they dump them there to
Gotcha.
the big things with, you know,
Big,
the
big.
big long thing. But yeah.
My
so-
memory tells me when we were looking at this, this was a 3-year number. Waste Management, 28 million, Orion, 20 million.
Correct.
How did this,
This one is 26 million. So it came down some from the 28 million that Waste Management had before.
but we'd still say it was still a pretty big gap. What was the driver here?
Are you talking about,
What was
Well,
the
we had-
driver to go with Waste Management?
well, they were the only one that bid on the second time around.
Oh,
We had,
not a pleasant situation.
You had
I think
Waste
some of the
Pro.
other companies kind of saw they weren't welcome, so.
Yeah, you
If
had
you watch the meetings, they got the message.
You had Waste Pro, and
Yes.
then Waste Management, and
Yes.
Orion that originally bid,
I remember that.
yeah.
I remember it was like 28 million,
28 million.
20 million. But they were going to come 4 times a week, 5 times.
Right, they were coming, yeah.
So it was a wild meeting, huh? I didn't see that one.
Well, that one, the second one was easy because there was only one bid, but the first meeting that got us out to rebidding was interesting, so.
Some other things going on, we've got a stormwater revenue sufficiency study going on. We give our consultants all the data, they will look at the rates, it's required every 3 years we go through that, so they'll come back, they analyze the system, you know, and then the CIP projection for the next 10 years to see what sort of rates they need, so that study's ongoing right now. And then there's a state wastewater analysis report required by the state to look over the wastewater system and the operations, and they want you to go out 20 years to see, I think it's part of, to make sure everybody's doing what they should to maintain their wastewater treatment plants. And then another thing I threw in here, I don't know if you know about, but we had a loan from Savannah Cove, $200,000, been sitting on the books. It was due in 2054. Just sitting on the books, but I guess a new owner came in and bought Savannah Cove. I don't know if you know where Savannah Cove is, behind the hospital there. And
Oh, okay.
city-owned land and buildings, but they're city-owned, yeah, and these people that run it. The new owners came in, we said, well, the old owners owe 200,000, you know, they have a promissory note. So they ended up, we did the net present value and they paid us 107,847 to the city. So we got that money. And the board approved moving that,
I'm idly curious. What interest rate did you use on it? A 20?
I used the current present, I can't remember if it was like 2.87%, something like that.
Do they still pay an annual lease,
Yes.
land lease?
Yes.
So that will continue.
That continues at, I think, $6,250 a month, $73,000 a year, I think. Yeah, they're still paying that. And the money, the board approved moving that money, because it was in the general fund, they wanted it moved to the land preservation funds so we can buy some land. I would like to keep it in the general fund, but no. I just wanted to mention some capital projects being carried over that are in process from 2021 to 22. The Pent Groves Stormwater, Seabreeze Drive, City Clerk new building, Anclote dredging, the Yardways project, Mears Boulevard, Anclote Turn Basin, Extend Pinellas Trail, and Tarpon Avenue roadway reconfiguration. And some of the bigger projects in the 22 budget is Orange Street construction, Lemon Street construction, Mango Street Phase 2, library improvements, sponge docks flood abatement, water line alternate 19 bridge, lift station rehab Lime Huey, and design engineer build of sidewalks at the sports complex to Mellon. I just wanted to mention some of the larger projects that are ongoing. I know this one's hard to read here, but this is what is on the general fund. It's just trying to show the revenues. The blue bar is last year's revenues, and the red bar is this year's revenues. As you can, through December, revenues in the general fund are $608,000 more than 2021, mostly due to the property tax receipts and the taxable value increase of 7.32%. General fund again, but expenditures cumulative so far. The red line being 2021 and the blue line being 2022, and we're $307,000 over 2021. Most of it is due to salary and benefits. Just showing you the general fund revenues by type. Taxes is highlighted as 79%. That'll go down, but that's because most of that's that $9 million we've got of the $12 million of revenues. But by the end of the year, that taxes category will be about 55%. Expenditures in the general fund, personnel services is at 78%, and usually by the end of the year it'll be right around 73%, 72, 73%. Just a little bit about the water and sewer fund. You know, and like I say, the rate reduction. I am seeing, you know, a little bit reduction in the revenues, but they are on budget. That's why I just sort of highlighted in that brown color, which probably, I don't know if is that visible there, but down about a couple $100,000 there. but we still are on budget, but we are seeing, a little bit of the revenue reduction there from the 2.2%. The larger revenues in the water and sewer fund, water sales down to 264,000, the biggest one. But like I say, if you look in the yellow, they're still right on budget. They're not at 25% because in October we do an accrual for the October revenues billing because we bill cycles during the months. So what's billed in October, a portion, whatever September is that we do a journal entry to accrue it back. So that's why you see them at 21, 22% instead of 25%. Expenditures in the water and sewer fund, I just sort of highlighted the biggest increase is in yellow, the capital outlay of $486,000. That's mostly due to Seabreeze Drive sewer project. I guess I like to be able to show all the funds so people don't say, you're not seeing everything. But these are all the other funds in the city, if you have an interest in them and stuff. But the hospital lease fund, which can be used for no other purpose than the lease starting 2041. What I'm trying to do here is project what our balance is going to be in yellow by the end of the fiscal year 2022. We would have the $3.1 million in the hospital lease fund. It can be used, they did a resolution saying it could be used for no other purpose. The ARPA money, we got the 6.4 money. Nothing has been spent yet, actual expenditures yet. Local option gas tax fund, $96,000 or $98,000 at the end of the year. School crossing guard, $9,600. Handicap fund, about $17,000. Getting into the impact fees, these are governmental impact fees. The police impact, we got about $435,000 by the end of the year. The fire impact's still paying off the loan, but it's getting close. I think in the next year or two that loan will be done. Library impact ending up the year at $48,000. But that's based on, they want to do some improvements to the library, right around $400,000. But they have applied for a grant too from the state for, I believe, $400,000. So we'll see, hopefully we get that grant. Recreation impact ending the year about $118,000. We do have some projects in the recreation impact with Extend Pinellas Trail. General government impact ending the year $90,000. Nothing's been spent there yet. Transportation impact ending the year at $47,000. Expenditures this year are still finishing off the Mears Boulevard project. Federal Equitable Sharing Fund with the police where they get confiscated federal money ending up the year at $128,000. Public Art Fund ending up the year at $91,000. Ending up there, but I'm basing it on what they've budgeted for expenditures. Now, whether they spend all that money they budgeted, I guess we'll see. And here's the Land Preservation Fund where we've got the $107,000 that went into it from the Savannah Cove sale, leaving $116,000. We got a recycling grant fund of $129,000, and then the CRA ending up at $315,000. We've got a police education fund, which will end up with about $12,000. The police confiscated trust fund. This is confiscated money, but it's through the county. The other one, federal equitable sharing, is federal money. And we got the employee benefit cost deferral, ending up with $95,000. We got the capital project fund, which is all the street paving and sidewalk projects are expensed through, ending up the year at $46,000. The sidewalk improvement fund, which is in the charter, using $100,000 a year, ending up a little over $1.8 million. And then we got the penny fund at the bottom, ending up with about $1.3 million. We've got $10 million of expenditures. There's a lot of expenditures still from being carried over from previous fiscal year with the current fiscal year budget. More the enterprise funds with the sewer impact fund, ending up the year at $910,000. Now we are using some money towards the city clerk building. Water impact fund, using some money there for the city clerk building, but probably ending up about $1.5 million. Sanitation fund, we're using some money for the city clerk building, but also the yard waste projects. So we might be just a tad under $2 million in the sanitation fund. The marina fund, one of the fund that had a negative, still has a negative fund balance. So it was a negative $18,000. We're predicting it'll be a negative $11,000. We increased the fees 2 years ago. So we're gradually whittling down the negative fund balance within the marina fund. Stormwater fund, you know, with the Pent Groves project and the grant receipts, we should be getting it from SwiftMud, but still ending up the year at $250,000. And like I say, we are having a stormwater revenue sufficiency study going on right now. And then the golf course fund. Now I'm hoping that if the rates keep on going, we'll have a negative of about $846,000, and I'm hoping in 2-3 years, you know, it'll be gone. But knock on wood if we have good weather and everything. Getting into some other stuff. The bond issue. Usually I just showed the bottom numbers, which showed the total bond, but I thought, you know, I need to break. I don't know if people know that the bond issue is in 2 parts. It's 2013 A1 and 2013 A2. Just so people know that the 2013 A1 will mature in 15 years, in 36, with that portion. And then 2013 A2 will mature in 20 years from now. So I thought it was important that maybe I should start breaking that out. I used to just put those bottom numbers where it says water plant bond total, but I thought, you know, I think it was when somebody asked me once, you know, when do these mature? And like, well, part of it's 2036, the other one's 2042. So that's why I broke that out there. And with the balance that'll be in yellow there at the end of the fiscal year, 2022. You know, we don't have much debt. The other debt is the fire ladder truck on the top part there, which at the end of the fiscal year will have a balance of $458,000, and then 2 more payments after that. Down below is the other fire truck, which I think it's good we got that 1.75% interest rate because it is going up, but the truck is still in the process of being built. We're not paying on the truck yet. The lease, we're guaranteed the rate of 1.75%, but we don't get the final start paying until the actual when we get the truck, which is estimated to be, you know, middle September of 2022 when we get that truck. Interfund loans, we've got 3 of those. Sanitation fund, the golf course, after this year, but it'd be about $54,000. If we're able to pay more, we'll try to bring that down more if the revenues are going up. It's based on the CIP. When people pay, there's a CIP surcharge. So hopefully, I think like last year, that was a little bit more than that $39,000, which is the budget amount there. So hopefully we can get that paid off sooner if the revenues keep up. And then the sanitation fund to the fire impact fund, balance at the end of the year about $81,000. But if revenues come in more in the impact fees, I try to pay off more of that. So hopefully, you know, that would be paid off in the next year or 2. And then the sanitation fund to the CRA fund for that land purchase at 61 West Tarpon. That's being paid off at $100,000 a year, so that'll be paid off in a couple of years. So total loan balance, interfund loan balance at the end of 2022 of $336,000. Getting into my favorite thing, investments here. I always like to say, you know, a couple of years ago we were at 3%. Then a year ago we were at this 10 and 20 basis points, which was driving me nuts. I hate seeing this money out here, you're just earning that little bit and stuff, but I'm excited to see that the interest rates are getting back up here. And like I say, I bought that one at 1.2% for 1 year. I'm trying not to buy anything much over a year or 2 years, unless it's a step up. And there's step ups where you can buy them that they'll step up in a year. So I feel better about those if I do buy something a little bit longer term. And like I say, there's still, some people are saying there's still going to be, maybe the Federal Reserve is going to increase the rates 3-4 times this year. So I want to try to ladder things so I still have money in the next few months to be able to buy some of the investments that are at a higher rate. I know you probably, I know this one hurts, but I put this one together because this is in keeping compliance with the investment policy. This is what we have to do to make sure with the different categories that we're not going over in a certain one what we have there. You know, up top is the money markets and the checking account. At this time last year, we were buying more CDs, and in fact, we got you all to approve me going from 25% to 40% because CDs were doing better. Now it's sort of the opposite. CDs they're still paying, I think maybe a quote I got the other day was 40 basis points for a 1 year, but still I can do 1% or above with either a treasury bill or a federal agency. So that's why you're seeing in the middle of the screen more agencies being bought now. And there's a lot of them. I like to ladder them out. So, you know, once they do mature, if the rates are going up, I can reinvest them at the higher return. And then down at the bottom is a couple of the state pools we have money in. And just to break it out so you can sort of see it probably better here, I guess. So, we got the 1.4 million of the local government investment pools, that's 33%. And then the CDs, about 13%. No treasury bills, but I did buy a treasury bill last week because the rates went up. And then we got the federal instruments at 31% of the investments, and then the local government pools 25%. And I also plan on getting more of the money. The money market's got 9 million of it. I plan on getting more of that out of there because the money market's still paying 15 basis points. So I wanted to gradually get some more money out of the money market. And I might be taking a little bit out of the pools too, because the pools are still paying to say 17, 18 basis points. I think some of the banks and the pools, they're slow to increase their interest rates when the rates are going up. And this is another required thing in the investment policy that we show the activity, what we did for the last 3 months, as far as CDs matured. I purchased this Federal Farm Credit Bank. This other CD matured. So just giving a history of what investments we purchased and what matured during the last 3 months. And just budget resolutions. We've had 2 budget resolutions just for this year. One was the same one we always do. It's basically just bringing over items from the previous year to the new year. That's for the city, and then down below was one for the CRA. Same thing, just bringing over some projects from the CRA from the old year that weren't completed to the new year.
So these were projects that were partially done. It's usually, let's say the whole project was gonna be 10 million, and we finished 4 million last year, you're carrying.
It's probably encumbered. We got a purchase order. We bring over the 6 million and to bring the budget over into the new year.
Understand.
And the last slide, your favorite thing, the budget process. In March, we're going to get out the budget packages to the departments, and then in April, finance compiles the budget, does the payroll calculations. May and June, you all will be at whatever schedule you decide, meeting with the departments. July and August is usually the board will be meeting and doing their workshops, and September, we'll have the public hearings on the budget, and after that, it'll be done for another year.
You're just trying
That's
to-
all I had.
You're trying to get us pumped up.
I'm trying to get just like
I
that.
can tell. We're trying to droll.
I'm right in the middle of the audit right now, so I'm trying to think, okay, I'm still sort of working on old year, the current year, and now we're talking about so sometimes there's 3 years we're working on right now. And trying to keep them straight.
So questions? Anything, what's concerning you? Anything, or you?
Well, no, but
You feel
being
uncomfortable?
3 months in, I just was looking at the revenues. Sales taxes were on budget. Duke Energy was a little bit down, but we're only 3 months in. That's Duke Energy is our utility tax. They're like our number 2 revenue source in the general fund. It was down a little bit, but not much, and their franchise fees. I want to see the interest earnings get up, but that improve some. But and then I know about ticket sales and performing arts, but we sort of budgeted down for that. So and recreation fees. So nothing really else, I don't think.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Impact fees too have been the impact fees and building permits. But I know that in the history, you can get one big development, and all of a sudden those impact fees are over budget and stuff.
Okay.
When you're collecting the budgets from the departments, can you, this year, I know you haven't done in the past, but this year in the miscellaneous sections, can you have them break it down a little bit more? I think on the last line on all the budgets, individual budgets, or miscellaneous lines.
Are you talking about, not where the numbers are, but there's a page where they're trying to explain we're buying 10 pencils or something like that?
Well, not 10 pencils, but there's some big items, also big sums that are more than 10 pencils. So if they can,
A little bit more, a little bit better explanation of what?
yes, exactly,
Okay,
please.
yeah, we can do that. In fact, I'll tell Shane that he's getting the budget package ready to tell him, okay, you need to be putting in a little bit more explanation on these bigger projects and stuff.
Please, thank you. In particular, the miscellaneous, on the last line on each budget,
Okay,
please.
sure.
Yeah, miscellaneous should never be too big of a,
Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you're looking for that we could do, or?
I was just, we'll let you know, okay? In plenty of time before you send the package. We'll let you know.
I'll be waiting with, what do you call it, bated breath or whatever?
just if when the people present, if they could actually speak to everybody, speak to the numbers and walk through the numbers.
Okay, so when we get each department
There's
going,
various degrees of how good they do it, somewhere else. But just to always speak to the number. Yes, they can give, that, the PR point. This is what's going on in our department, this. Now, when they get to the numbers, talk to the numbers.
some of the bigger items probably,
Yep.
maybe any big
Particularly when there's a
variances,
big change.
big changes in
year
our
over
numbers
year.
from the previous year to this year.
Yeah,
Just tell
up-
them in
up
my
or
language,
down.
cut the foo-foo. That's my language, what I tell them, so that's what I end up.
No foo-foo.
Okay.
That's all I got.
Anybody else, any questions? Okay, so we're rolling along rapidly. Review and discussion results of town hall meeting on ARPA, American Rescue Plan funding.
So our funds, right? We had a town hall meeting. There's two subjects you'll see in the surveys that you have in the backup. You'll probably be addressing the first portion at a later time. The board may direct, that's talking about the West Tarpon Avenue property and what to do there at the very beginnings of getting input. So that's something the board will probably direct, especially if it ends up being a high money item and stuff, that may come back to you. But the second portion was the one that went along with what we had talked about, the money, asking what the public wanted the money spent on. And it's kind of funny because a lot changed in this thing. There was a tremendous change. In fact, I don't think I've ever remembered in all my 40-plus years seeing something happen like this, especially when we're dealing with federal money and a federal grant. So we start out, when this first thing was announced, as city managers saying, all you cities got all this money. And of course, we're having our commissioners, let's go, let's do something with. And we're trying to tell our commissioners, well, they gave us a number of monies, but we don't have the criteria. We don't know. And we're a long time not knowing. Then we got criteria, and it was pretty vague criteria. All of us, I mean, we got together again. Okay, we got them, but it's vague. Can roads be in this inference? I don't see roads anywhere, so is roads not, is this not covered? Very tight, very strict recording and reporting to the feds. It was a very elaborate process. I'm sure they got input from people that you need to elaborate. Cities need to know if you're going to be setting the cities to criteria to adhere to, you need to make them clearer to the cities. And somewhere after all this, right at the end, unexpected, kind of tell them what came up tell them what happened right at the very end that kind of wiped all this stuff out. Kind of explain to them.
Well, to go back, there's the 4 categories of eligible uses. There's public health and economic benefits that help the community. There's premium pay for public essential employees. There's water, sewer infrastructure and stormwater infrastructure, all one category. But then there was revenue loss. And at first, they wanted you to calculate each year your revenue loss based on this formula. And I think it just got too confusing for everybody, and the federal government just came back and said, here, you get an allowance of $10 million, spend it on any traditional city government service. So you can use it for any way you want to, public safety, parks and recreation, roads and streets, any traditional city government service. So that's, so of the 12.8 million, we can put 10 million just coming out of there for any city government service. Where before, the way I was calculating based on our revenue loss, I was only coming up to about 1.5 million in the first year. And on the next year, I didn't have anything, because as you can see, our revenues in 2021 improved and stuff. So I didn't have any revenue loss based on the calculation. So this 10 million, it makes it easier for reporting too. They think you're only going to have one line to do it, and you have to put in all these other things. You're going to have to, they want to follow up and say, what are you doing here with all the water and sewer infrastructure for each project individually? But with the 10 million, you're pretty much is more flexible and easier to report. So I'm not sure if that helps explain
Yeah,
it.
plus your reporting guidelines tremendously got,
A lot easier. You don't have to break out each project and stuff. You could just have this category for 10 million and use it for any city government, traditional government service.
yeah, so I think we talked about last time, we already were using our Connect Tarpon for this project. We already had that out when we were talking. And, you know, it wasn't, and we have got a lot of, we've gone to social engagement on steroids. We have got so many things with the strategic plan, the comprehensive plan, ARPA money, projects. If you go to Connect Tarpon, the citizens have been gone from no input like that to overwhelmed. So of all the ones, which were some interesting and exciting projects, even though you think $12 million might excite the people, it was one of the fewest response ones on the Connect Tarpon. And the problem originally was most of the responses of what you want to do with the money weren't categorized at that time as money we could use ARPA funds. So we're looking at them and says, well, this doesn't help us much because under the present regulations, they're not. Now, all of a sudden at the end, and you'll see a report of some of the things you'll see in your report from Connect Tarpon, you know, what the people actually said. And you'll see now, okay, those are uses and stuff, so they become more relevant. So because that wasn't getting a lot of traction, we decided to do, well, as first the commission was going to do a town hall meeting, and somehow it moved to the city manager doing a town hall meeting, which was okay. I wasn't used to being up there alone running the whole show, but it was all right. So we had the town hall on Tuesday, 2 days ago. Pretty good crowd, just under 50 in the crowd. I think we had 41 participate. And what we tried out was a new software. We had a consultant on the Distant project come up with this software where the people in the audience for the meeting actually went on their cell phones and could answer a bunch of questions that was on there, and you'd look on the screen and you see 23% this answer, 10%, it'd go and you would see the live results of what they were doing. So the meeting was originally January 19th. You remember, I think I told you we were going to do it in January, but because they wanted us to try this hardware, we actually bought the software and we moved the meeting back because we had to see if we could pull it off. And we went through some rather 3 weeks of testing and trial runs and everything. So we kind of had a town hall meeting with each subject had 3 phases. A short presentation to begin with to introduce it. Then we went to the new town hall style of getting on your phone and here's questions and answering the questions. And then 3, and we had paper ballots there too. If somebody's phone or just couldn't do it, we'd hand the paper version and they'd just do a paper version. And then the 3rd was just the old traditional town hall. Come up to the microphone and tell us what you want to be used for the money. The other thing we did with this, we told everybody we were leaving it open until next Tuesday. So it's actually open. People who weren't attending or who was watching it on YouTube, when the YouTube meeting ended live, they could actually go in there and answer the questions and do the vote, and they have until Tuesday to do it. Looking at the responses, they're kind of what I expected, because I expected them to be all over the board. Because as you know, when we did we came up with easily 40 million that we could use the 12 million on. All good projects, all good from every area, from infrastructure to, great projects that we want to do sometimes in the next 10 years. So it's easy to come up with that 40 million. So there's lots of stuff out there, and there's a lot of people who have their particular areas. So we knew it was going to be spread out anywhere, all over the place. You've got the results after the meeting. I think she just brought into me, and we've probably had about 15. Some numbers are different, but instead of being in the high 20s, we're in the high 40s for responses right now. And some of the things that you can see right now is that, let me see. Here we go. When we asked the 4 basic uses, the The investments in infrastructure actually was a high at 51% of infrastructure. We just asked the real general question of infrastructure, premium pay, revenue loss, public health emergencies. It was pretty strong there. When you got down to the actual areas, we broke down each area, like public health, emergency, and negative impacts. It was pretty split. You had 39% for public health or public health facilities, 23 for households, 14 for business, 16 for nonprofits. It was kind of split in between them. Second choices also kind of went along the same way. We told them that we weren't at this time considering premium pay for eligible workers. And one of the major reasons is that to classify who of all of our 300 and some employees, but to meet the government standards, we're going to have some people that made a great contribution not eligible for that money. It would cause, in my mind, an internal nightmare of us using the criteria, obviously police and fire, but then when you get into some of the other, there's a lot of people who went home and did a lot of work at home that was vital to us going. They wouldn't necessarily classify, but there are going to be people, it's just, the county did it, gave $750 to the ones they need, $750, but for $750 to divvy out or whatever, ours would be $500 or something. The people we leave off, the morale, the thing, but it just, for me as a manager stuff, I know some of the people said, well, man, I would have been guaranteeing this, I would have got 500, but it just was too hard because everybody, the whole team of the city, everybody in this thing, whether you worked at home, whether you did office work, whether you were in the field to get through this pandemic, if it wasn't a give everything something, then it would just be hard for me to come forward and say these 200 should follow your criteria and 100 are left out. So we don't even want to deal. And Ron, looked at it and looked at the criteria and knew it was going to be a nightmare. So
that was kind of just
so
taken out.
Well, in our, it can always come back in, or the commission could decide to do it, but we wouldn't recommend it.
Yeah, let's get into the reporting of it, and the wording is in essential, public safety people that performed essential work during COVID. And stuff was, is the wording, and the reporting of it is trying to think, okay, who are you going to get that's essential and be able to get the money? And like city manager says, and if some people don't get it, and yeah, it would just
cause more harm than.
Yeah.
So luckily, 62% of the people agreed with that. 28 didn't, and 11 were undecided. So that's a pretty good percentage of poll that can be brought out. Of the traditional government services, for the first choice, road, streets, and sidewalks were number one. Sustainability were number two. When we asked them their second choice, it was really spread out. Probably second choice was roads and streets, sustainability, and the other categories all had spread pretty good numbers and stuff. So again, it was just what you as an individual, what you're seeing is. When we threw out the infrastructure ones, water infrastructure, sewer, stormwater, broadband, and we only put broadband in because it was a government category. We knew that was difficult on a smaller city level to get into a broadband community network. That's a lot of things. But for the first choice, water infrastructure was 23%, sewer 23%, stormwater 43%. And then in the second choice, water was 16%, sewer was 42%, stormwater 31%, and broadband 11%. So the sewer infrastructure and the stormwater infrastructure was clearly the priority of the citizens in there, and that's where you think it would fall. We also assisted.
The goal of this whole survey would to try to put priorities on the 12.8 million?
Yeah, and it was for the commission because the commissioners want to get more of the pulse, and like I explained to them, there's going to be more public hearings where you tell the commissioner. We have never heard yet the commissioner's priorities. You have staffs, we've got some rudimentary of the citizens, but we haven't heard. They haven't said yet. They want to hear ours and the public's first. So we have to hear theirs, and then when all those put together, there's probably being closer to 60 instead of $40 million of good projects that they'll have to decide the remaining 10 or 11 million, what are we gonna spend those on, which will be it's so spread out and they're all such good, there's not any, a lot of real bad projects in there, so they're gonna have to do that out. So again, that's a lot of input and a lot of different things. It helped me, and the business community was there, and they emphasized how they needed that advertising money, which, we're coming into the off season, we're trying to get businesses, back together, how that extra 100,000 of advertising, would really be good, because we already know all the things we had to cut out advertising normally because of the budget. So they emphasized that. The people from Bayshore who remember 11 years ago when we were going to go up Bayshore and do the whole thing, and they're the last end of 11 years, and, hey, why are you holding off? Come do our street. They were in the audience Tuesday night, so they made it loud and clear. We've waited. You have one last thing, and you finished the shoreline. That was the second area of town. We spent how many years? The first priority was all the land by Lake Tarpon. Environmentally and stuff, the worst contamination and contamination threat. So we did 3 phases of doing all the neighborhoods by Lake Tarpon. That was 12 years ago. That was the first priority to get that done. And then we moved to the Bayshore. Obviously, Bayshore is right along the water line, and there's septic along there. So those were the 2 areas most susceptible to polluting the environment and stuff. And we're one step away from finishing the second biggest area and stuff. And, we want to go now and get that finished and end that project. So they did help us with that. The surveys did help us. So Tuesday night, I'm going back and saying, can we do those 2, and you still have 10 million left you still have 10 million to hear more input from everybody and decide, which of the many good projects, you collectively as a group, after you've heard collectively from the citizens, you make the decision. You're the 5 that need to make the decision of which one you go to. And again, we're just waiting to see which ones, because they're all good projects and they'll move us way along in the timeline of what we want to get done. So we're just waiting. Just tell us where to go and how you want to space it. We're ready to go.
And that's honestly why, at the last meeting, when you're wanting to go with certain projects that totaled, I'm going to say 2-point-something million. It didn't seem like they were going to have another 10 to decide, so it wasn't superfluous spending. It sounded like projects that were in the works and just needed to be finalized. And you can only get so much input.
Yeah.
They finally, at the end of the day, BOC is going to have to make that call.
So that's where we are.
Okay, I was kind of curious when I was reading that as the attachment for this. Okay, what's driving this?
Yeah.
And it's good you got more responses, because there was like about 28 or so on what we saw.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, so that's nice.
And there was more people. There was probably, I think they were either scared, they acted like they were doing it on the phone, but they just didn't want to raise their hand and get in. They either said, I'm going to go home and do it, or I don't want to be the one asked for a piece of paper. I'm not going to be that person in here with all these people.
Yeah.
So how did the
Because 41 started out that were engaged to do it, and then the votes were in the high 20s and stuff. So somewhere we lost 11 people. We lost about 11 people in the process.
Yeah, I want to know the same you were just about to ask.
Yeah, how did we get the technology part of it? Taking the survey, was it pretty good then?
It was when they got to the point of explaining what to do, and on the phones they asked, is anybody's having problems? And we were expecting to spend 30 minutes on getting everybody set up, and we were probably less than 15.
Okay.
Again, I think some got into it and either got behind or did something wrong, and then just
That's it.
just stopped. But it was surprising because there was a good mixture of people who you could tell were, technology and using the phone is secondhand, and there were a group of people who weren't, and you could actually, I was watching the ones who weren't, the people who are probably not savvy, and they were really going, watching them, a large portion of them And we had people in the audience to go around and, again, this software has a lot of features, but we just did the rudimentary, most simple. I mean, it can rank, you can rank things, you can take 7 things and put them in order from first to last. There's a lot of things. We just made it the simplest we could. So the thing, looking out in the audience that made me happen, I saw people who I know are not technologically, and they were doing the whole thing on the phone and looking in, so it worked a lot more smoother. We had so many plans of things going wrong and what we needed to do ready for the night, but we didn't have it. And as people get more used to doing this in the future, and we get big crowds, and we hear about it and get big crowd, we get 100 in that auditorium, and we're doing that, and we get 75. We'll really get some good feedback with it and stuff. So we were happy, and I know planning and IT worked very hard for about 3 weeks. Again, we did 2 dry runs with our employees in the auditorium to get the kinks out from us to what we would do. And
So how long did this whole meeting last?
it lasted an hour and a half.
Beautiful.
It was,
It's not one of those ones till 4 o'clock in the morning. Like when somebody really loves a project and they get 92 people.
no, we got the 2 subjects and plus you had to, we started off with about 15 minutes of talking, and then we to try to get everybody's phone. So we got it done in an hour and a half. We got it done by 8 o'clock.
Excellent.
So in these next 5 days or so, are we trying to still engage citizens
Yes.
through?
Yeah, we've put out on Facebook and hey, go in if you wanna go into the questions that were asked at the meeting, to go in and do them. So we're still engaged. I don't know how many. I'll send this to all of you. We'll send all the as of right now when she walked in with it, what we're up to. You can see the differences. We don't know how many were in the audience then just went back and did it, or how many from us putting out to do it have done it. But you'll see the numbers, increasing by about 20, probably about 20 people, numbers increasing. And that's just since we put it out Wednesday. We put it out Wednesday after the meeting about going on and voting, so it's been 1 day.
Okay.
So we'll see where it gets. But again, we've got so many engagement platforms out there for, especially with the strategic and the comprehensive plan, which is very, very important. We've got so many things out there, we're almost saturated, and this one may get a back burner or so, but we're still getting enough feed. I don't think this will change drastically if you throw 30 more people in. Some of the numbers, because we had a good sustainability crowd, so you expected the sustainability numbers to be up in this poll because you could see the audience, and so maybe that would come down a little bit. But I don't think 30 more, 50 more people. I don't think you see any drastic changes, barring just a small change, those percentages going back and forth. It was a pretty representative audience and representative votes. So I don't think you'll see a lot of change that would drastically change your opinion of looking at a question and, wow, it's really changed. I don't think you're going to see any of that, no matter how many people vote in there. So, I mean, that's how I see it.
So what's your gut feel on this? I'm trying to figure out how to word this quick. We have the 12.8 million, over the next few years. Do you see us, Tarpon, we spend a certain amount, we've been spending a certain amount in capital each year. Do you see us spending that plus a portion of the 12.8 per year? Or do you see that 12.8 funding some of our basic needs? Does that make
I think it moves things on. For instance, the other importance, and we're going to try to emphasize that more Tuesday night, because I know one of the comments, one of the commissioners says, well, you've already got that on the list to do. That's the next project up. Why are we funding it? Why are we funding it with this money? It's the next project up in our water and sewer fund thing. Well, it's not that. It's not the 6 months or the year that we'll save by doing it earlier. It moves up project number 2 to the next one to do, which the next one is a small section of Florida Avenue. Now, I'm saying small, it's about $1 million project.
Right.
That would almost exactly the same as the one we're replacing. So the water and sewer funding money will go to that Florida Avenue project. And why that's important? The next one is a bigger Florida Avenue project that's 3, 4. It's almost like Gross and Pent over here, a major, major thing that you need your water and sewer money for, gathering up for the next couple of years to be ready for the third project in line, which is, Florida Avenue 2. Got a smaller one we want to do first, and then the giant one to do. So by moving the one project out with the ARPA money, we move up that schedule, and obviously Florida Avenue and all the areas around the water with septic's very important and stuff. So that's where it combines itself. It moves the list and moves the time frame of getting it done and moving along.
That makes it, in other words, you're not gonna run out of projects.
No.
There's a back order of projects. It's just this.
So that's just one example in that, how that
12.8 is a nice sum of money.
It's nice that, a lot of areas, if they take just the top project, it moves things up 2 or 3 years in some cases, to get closer to get where you want to be.
And if they go over, they send the bill to the chair of the Budget Advisory Committee.
No problem. Just send it.
He'll put it back in the
send it.
mailbox.
Checks in the mail. Okay, good.
I have
Yeah.
2 things. So is this something Billy would maybe get involved in down the road with ensuring that we're spending according to the criteria and having adequate documentation? You could be pulled in on that?
I'm sure the commission might direct it that way, yes.
Okay, and then the second thing is, from the commission standpoint, we all know the commission's about to turn over.
Yes, we do.
So whatever this commission is saying, these are our priorities, what happens come April when we basically have a new commission? Can they say, no, that's not our priorities, we're gonna set new ones?
Well, I think what they're pretty much saying is, and I'm asking, after they approve, if they approve the 2 Tuesday night, the rest of the 10 million will be in the hands of the new commission. But the new commission will have all the information we have so far.
With the
And I think they'll want to get in before they leave at the meeting, and we'll probably do this meeting the first meeting of March. They'll probably want to get in the first meeting of March, what their priority, even though they're leaving and not voting, these are some things that aren't on here that are considered. But definitely the, 10, or maybe if they don't approve this, 10 million are going to be put in the hands of the new commission.
Okay.
Could I just add on to your first question, along with Billy probably looking at it, but all these projects need to be reported to the, Department of Treasury once a year by April 30th of each year.
Right.
But also, it's just like a grant. Our external auditors who are here, that's going to be a major program for them, and they're going to be going through every probably expenditure of those projects.
Okay.
But I certainly like Billy looking at things, because Billy's thorough, so. Like I say, I'm never scared of auditors.
I was having this vision of you auditing, and you're auditing Ron. I was just wondering how that, no, I'm kidding. Okay. Anything else, any other questions, comments on that item number 4? We're good? Good. Public comments? None. Public? Staff comments? None. Board comments?
When do we want to meet again? What's the plan from here?
The next regular meeting would be March 17th.
What do we have something for, will you have anything in March to?
Probably, not March. I mean, we'll get the budget books to them probably not until maybe the first week of May. So I'm not sure if any other items come up between March and April.
So probably not March, maybe April.
Maybe April for something. But probably, maybe we could do a 6-month update on the finances if you want.
Oh, that'd be good.
In April, there, third week of April.
Should we limit Ron to number of slides?
I do that after every meeting.
Joke, kidding,
I'm
Ron.
trying to think of something funny to say, but I'm drawing a blank. But
No, that time for 2 months.
we'll get 6 months of history there in
That's
March.
good.
Yeah.
That's good.
April 21st.
And that'll get us kind of revved up for the budget, pumped up.
You can get yourself all psyched up and whatever.
Give a Newt Rockney speech and all that, and get ready.
We'll bring in the
Okay.
cheerleaders.
What's the date, Michelle?
April 21st.
April 21st.
And if you know anybody, we still have 2 vacant alternates. I have one
Yeah,
application.
you have the,
I
my
have
friend.
that
yeah.
one, I need,
Okay.
another one.
need
I
more.
think. Yeah. So, we have
Please.
other board, openings on other boards too. We have code enforcement, planning and zoning, board of adjustment, heritage preservation.
How much does it pay?
And it's tough. I mean, they're coming in.
Good bonuses.
They're coming in zero. I mean, we're putting them out on there. We're not, so that's why we're encouraging, especially people and board members that I mean, like this board and
I've never
financial,
seen- I mean-
people that that have that expertise, or even ones who want to learn now, because every board, we're just struggling, and a lot of times you got your alternates, so you don't struggle. We haven't gone below the alternates, but you don't want to get the circumstance, somebody, you get past there, but we are getting nothing. I think a lot that's going on, with some of the tensions of this, people want to stay out of things for now. They just don't want to put themselves into
But once you think
into
you're gonna
anything,
hold
so.
out like a free agent and get a big contract.
I mean, if we can get somebody before budget starts, I think it helps them,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Once we get into the budget season. So if you know of any.
So we got at least one more, two more, if any on this board knows anybody to do it,
Yeah, because when I first came on, I came in the middle of the budget season.
Yeah.
That
yeah,
was tough.
it's tough.
Yeah, it's hard.
That's why it'd be nice we had a
Get
full
somebody in
board
the
and
next,
alternates.
Month or so. Would be good.
We'll stretch our minds.
So y'all have homework.
Thanks
Get
for
your
calling.
Rolodex out.
Okay. So future agenda items, we covered, we'll just do a 6-month update. Anything else, before the gavel strikes? I feel powerful. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 3:26 in the afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you.